Once your jam system is installed, you're ready to start tying in all the courses along the logs around the outside and along the top. If you've used your level as you're going up, you've lined up your dado slots, you've eyeballed down those walls to make sure that you're staying in a straight line. When you go to put the tie-in courses in, and you've already put all your headers in, securing the tops of your window and door openings, those tie-in logs will go a lot easier. You'll spend a lot more time, you'll have a lot less headaches if you take the time as you're going up to plumb up those corners and all those sections in between your windows and doors. You'll notice above our TJM system, we have approximately a 2-inch opening. This 2-inch opening is to allow us to provide for any settling in the logs. In the area that you build, whatever the relative humidity is, it's going to go with those logs. Those logs we like to get down to between 18 and 21% as they leave the plant. But as they go through the building process, as they go through the travel, as they sit on your job site without a roof system on them, they will draw more moisture. If you're in a high humidity area, they will draw more moisture. So what you're going to do, once you get it all dried in, you get the roof on and stuff like that, those logs are going to go to the relative humidity of your area. If it takes that moisture content out of those logs below that 21%, those logs are going to shrimp. As the cells in the logs collapse, they're going to shrink somewhat. So you may get a 1/16 to an 1/8 per stack out of log shrinkage. When that occurs, you want to make sure that you have space around your windows and door openings to allow that space in there so that all your logs stay tight and you don't have to adjust your windows and doors down the way. Now we've reached the top of our wall. We're going to go ahead at this time and talk about some of the components of our wall systems and our beam system. Once you get your logs set up there, you're ready to start putting in your wall starters for your interior walls. Now in some cases, a builder's having problems with his log wall and they want to roll out or step out each time as he's going up. A lot of times they'll install a stiffener like this or one of our T-jams in a door opening to help line that up and plumb it up. Now when they do that is generally when they're up a course or two of logs, they'll go ahead and fasten this to the interior wall. Now they'll go ahead and they'll figure out where their interior walls go. They'll chalk out some lines on the floor to make sure they know where everything goes, and they'll start plumbing this up, making sure it's level as it goes up. First thing they'll do, they'll fasten it at the bottom. Then they're going to put a level on the outside of this wall starter, make sure it's plumb, then they'll put an angle brace. That angle brace will go down to the subfloor. At the subfloor, they will have nailed a cleat along a couple of the joists, nailing it down into the floor, so that once this is plumb, they'll go ahead and nail it to the side. Then they'll use this as a standard as they stack each one of their courses of logs and go ahead and bring it close to the wall starter. They'll go ahead and use fasteners as they go up. Now another way to do that is using the T-jam. A lot of times what our builders will do is they'll go ahead and use a T-jam along at the end of their log walls. Now they won't necessarily cut these to length, but they'll go ahead and put it up in place. They won't install the sill seal in behind there. They'll go ahead and they'll nail it in place, and what they'll do with this is they'll use this as a standard as they're going up. They'll do the same thing. They'll run an angle brace off of one of the T-jams. They'll put it down to the floor to a cleat. They'll go ahead and plumb up the T-jam, and then they'll set each corresponding course above that using that along the T-jam. Now keep in mind, the more of these you install early and the more of the wall starters you install early, the more you're going to have to work around on your subfloor. You're going to have all those angle braces. So use them sparingly, but they can act as a standard to keep your walls plumb as you're going up with the log walls. And we want to talk about these wall starters. These wall starters are made in our trim department. You'll notice the spacers through it and the spacer blocks. These are there for a reason. These are to help us to allow you to place it against an exterior log wall. Once you fasten it through these areas, you'll see that these lag screws have plenty of space in here to move. So as your log walls settle, this stays secure. Your log walls are allowed to settle, but it helps stiffen up your logs. Now when I started out, we used to take a 4x4, we'd run it on the ground, we'd take a chalk line down the center of that 4x4, take a chainsaw and put about an inch, inch and a half groove down the back. We'd go ahead and put it everywhere we had an interior wall. We'd put it up against that exterior log wall. We'd nail it with pole bar nails through the center of it. Now what that slot allowed those pole bar nails to do is just bend as the log settled. But what it didn't do is anything to stiffen up that log wall. By using the strength of a 2x4 on edge, by gluing each one of these spacer blocks in, by nailing each one of the spacer blocks in, and by putting this faceplate on it, makes this wall starter very secure, very straight, and very strong. So when you figure out where your interior walls go, you can pre-drill a pilot hole at the front face. You want to make sure that as you're placing your lag screws in there, that you've marked the top, you've marked out where each one of your spaces start and stop. That way you know where to place these lag screws in on the outside. You're going to go ahead and put it where your interior wall should go on the floor where your chalk lines are. You're going to go ahead and use your level. Place your level up against that wall starter and start fastening in your lag screws. You will notice as you install those wall starters or wall stiffeners that we also make. The wall stiffeners will go in areas where you don't have interior partition walls joining exterior walls, but they go to stiffen up a gable wall or some area where you don't have anything to stiffen it up. When you're fastening those, you'll notice that each one of those log courses will just come in line and be pulled up nice and tight against that wall stiffener and secure it. Now you're ready for your interior framing. Now this is standard conventional construction. You'll notice a single bottom plate, a double top plate. The biggest difference you'll notice is this gang stud at the end. Now the reason for that gang stud is in log homes, we don't have bearing walls. Like a lot of your conventional construction, your trusses bear on the outside walls. They generally have a wall or two in between that they actually bear on and have support. In a log home, we have bearing points. So this wall, this gang stud right here, will go in place in your wall. This will actually support weight all the way from your basement foundation, all the way up through your subfloor to your second floor. For this particular instance, we use this as a girder support for a second floor. You may even have a ridge support going off that. So these bearing points in a log home, if you went through a log home plan and you figured out where all the bearing points are, you could eliminate all your interior walls because there's no support on those. It's only on these points. So we're going to go ahead and fasten in our framing. Because we've already plumbed up these wall starters, we're going to go ahead and nail it directly to the starter. Now once your gang stud is installed and you have some braces off it, this is going to support that second floor. So a lot of time these gang studs go in long before your interior framing because you're going to need this for that second floor before you put your roof on. And we want to talk a little bit about the main girder that this gang stud is supporting. You'll notice we've got our notched out space in the wall to hold that main girder. We're going to put a 1-inch settling jack on top of this gang stud to support our ridge, to support our main girder and our second floor. On the ground, you'll notice we've taken our main girder, we figured out exactly where that bearing point would be. We've drilled a hole. That hole in the bottom accepts the threads to our settling jack. We've attached a plate over the center of that hole. This is going to support all the weight for the second floor on that jack. We've also installed a 2x4. We have an interior wall that's running down the center of our main girder. We've seen this on the plan. So we've gone ahead and attached this. What this is later going to do is act as a trim nailer to help us hold up the settling space that we're going to create above our interior walls.